Okay. Woo, cold. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am here with my friend Cathy. Hi. This is my brother's beautiful cottage on Vancouver Island, and it's one of my favorite places to come and one of my favorite people to come with. And we're going to do some cooking and eating and reading and relaxing and hiking. Hiking, yep. And we're going to do some thrifting. So that is the goal, is I'm going to do some upcycling for Cathy.
Yes, because Catherine sews and Cathy does not. We'll see what we get this time.
Yeah, we'll head into town and see what we can find. So we're about to go into one of my favorite thrift stores in Duncan. This is the boutique at Thrift Town. Excited?
Yes.
Okay, let's go see what we can find.
Okay.
So there's that little t-shirt dress, which I think would be super cute for you. Do you think?
Yeah, I think it'd work.
And then it is an extra small. So you know what I would love to find is like a navy and white polka dot, and we put a strip down both sides, or even a red or something that could coordinate nicely with it.
Okay.
Just to have that strip down the side. I think that'd be cute.
Okay, let's do it.
So this is not at all what I said we were looking for, but I kind of like those together. This is just a men's like polo shirt, but it's stretchy, right? Which I think is important. So what do you think of those two together?
I'm going to trust you.
I think it's got potential. There's also just like a solid blue one. It's not as good a match in the blue, but it's maybe a safer choice.
No, I think I like the stripe better.
You like the stripe better?
Yeah.
I think it could work, but maybe we keep looking too.
That is really adorable on you, though. I love that little dress.
It's quite, I feel like it's tight, right? Like
Tight?
here. Yeah, so I wouldn't mind.
All right, do a little turny-voo. Oh, I love that on you, though. It's
the
really cute.
socks,
Yeah, the
making
socks
me
are
out.
really making it.
Yeah, I just feel like it's tighter than I would wear. Right?
Okay.
Like I'm holding my breath. Right
Okay, so we can we can do something fun with that other print.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't have to be like just a straight band. It can be something really like cute and more creative and decorative. So through the bust, it's actually pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like maybe from that second stripe down is where we want to just give you just a little bit of ease of movement.
Yeah,
really,
I think so, yeah.
right? And then we found a different knit to go with it, right?
Yeah.
So we're thinking of that inside, which I love it. But because you don't need much, I'm thinking we don't need a strip on both sides. We just need like one, and it doesn't have to be straight. So I'm going to draw on you. This is just a piece of soap. So a line kind of like that. I think this one's going to be really cool.
Okay.
Yep, perfect. Okay. Let's do it. Yes, those sleeves are they are huge. It's like a kimono sleeve where it's closed at the bottom there, right?
Yeah, there. I feel like I could like carry my lunch around.
But definitely just straighten out the sleeve because the fabric is beautiful on the sleeve. Like it looks gorgeous. So if you just put your arms down, we can see and they're too long then as well, right?
Yes.
So we're going to take like 3 inches off the length of the sleeve. The hem is asymmetrical on the bottom there, right? So we can decide what to do with that. What do you think about the body? Like the fit through the body is fine?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And then do a little turn so I can see that, that asymmetrical hem isn't working too much for me. But I think we might be able to do something fun with what we cut off the sleeves. The neck is wide, right? If I did some pin tucks in the front and back to bring the neck in, I think that might be nice, just a little bit. I didn't bring a serger, so whatever we get up to, it's going to have to be sewing machine only, no serging. So I'm going to start with the sleeves of the black one. So I've got it pinned together, like the 2 sleeves pinned together, and these sleeves are like a bunker's shape. So I'll be cutting off this whole section of sleeve and just making it kind of like a more normal shaped sleeve. Yeah, so I've got a line straight down here and then across, cutting off 2.5 inches off the bottom. So I still have 1/2 inch for the hem. So I'll just cut, which is always the scary part, right? Cutting is always really like, there's no turning back after you've made your cut. Oh, and I have to look at the neckline too, because I think that would be nicer for her if I could just bring that neck in, because the neckline sits just a bit too wide and she kind of looks a little like she's drowning in it a little bit, right? So that will be nice. So the neckline has this nice little binding on it, which makes things a little tricky, but I think that will still be worth doing, to do those little pin tucks on the neck. I've got to remove some of this binding so that I can make pin tucks. And then the easiest thing would be to have a seam at the center front, but that's not okay. So what I'm actually thinking is make a little opening in the center front, like a little keyhole opening, and then take some of the fabric, like a little bias strip from what I've cut off, and do just a little opening with a button and loop at the front. I think that could really be nice. I think that could be beautiful. And the back, I would do the little PinTucks, but I would just have a seam in the binding. And at the center back, that's okay, I think. That wouldn't bother me. Okay, lots to do. So I put my ideas to Cathy, and apparently she doesn't like buttons. Like, I've known this woman 23 years. I never knew she didn't like buttons. I've taken the binding off the center back, and I've marked 7 little notches, like just little wax marks at the edge, and they're just about half an inch apart. And then I've got corresponding wax marks down below, and they are going from 2 1/4 inches from the top, 2 1/2, 2 3/4, 3 inches, 2 3/4, 2 1/2, 2 1/4. So to get the PinTucks to be straight, I made just a tiny little notch in the back neck. And so when I make that little tiny notch, I'm just going to find one thread, a vertical thread, like a yarn in the fabric, and I'm just going to pull it, and it shows me the grain line coming down. So I'm going to sew my PinTuck along that little pulled thread. And then once you pull the thread, you can easily like get rid of the pull. You just sort of pull it back and it's gone. So those little pulled threads are going to help me to make my PinTucks totally parallel, totally straight. That's going to be good. I'm kind of excited about that. And while I'm at the machine, I'll sew up the sleeve, and I'm going to have to do a zigzag edge because I did not bring my serger. So I'll just sew it, and I could do a French seam, couldn't I? But then it has to blend into that serged seam there. But I think that would be nicer. Alrighty, I'll do a French seam there, and then a little fine rolled hem on the bottom edge and my PinTucks. I'm going to do the PinTucks on the back neck before I attempt the front, just to make sure it works. So here goes the first one. So there's my little notch. Here's a vertical thread. I'm just pulling that just so I can see the grain line, right? I'm going to fold it right on that pulled thread, and I want to see where my dot is. Okay, so this is the outside now. I'm sewing this on the outside. And can you see my thread pull there? So I'm going to take that and kind of just pull that taut to the top edge. And then there's my little soap mark to stop at. Okay, I think this will work. One little PinTuck. How cute is that? Same thing on the next one. Just try to get one vertical yarn of the fabric. Yeah, pull that, fold on that pull, a little back tag, and then find where I'm going. So there's my pulled thread. Pick that up and fold right on that. Okay. And kind of, if you pull it taut, it'll go straight. Okay, just like that 7 times. So I think it is easier to pin it on that pulled thread and then pull it back and sew. That seems to be working better. I think I'm getting better as I go, so by the time I get to the front, hopefully it's good. So now these extra pulls, oh, you know what? I have to be careful of that. Where it's been printed, you will see those pulls. Oh, darn it. Okay, that is something I need to be very careful about on the front. So on the back, yeah, the little pulls show where it's been printed. Can you see that? There, that little line, that's from me pulling the thread out and then back in. So I don't see pulled threads anymore, but I do see that white line shooting through. So now just putting this binding back on. So when I've got it folded in half, that's the difference that I've created, right? So I'm going to make a seam right here and unfold the bias completely and then sew a little seam across. I just had to take a second and do a little hand baste across there because that was just too fuzzy. But the other thing I could have done is found an iron and pressed that all flat, like got rid of the original creases first because it's still fussy. I'm going to start a little ways in because the edge is just not substantial enough. It'll just bunch up. So I'll start a bit in and then go back. Good. Good. Whew. Well, that was just a little bit of stress. Okay, now I think I'm just going to go for it and cut that little edge off. Okay. Alrighty, so now it's just a matter of putting the bias back on. I'm going to start with the inside edge or the sewing it to the wrong side of the neckline, because then I can finish with the right side and make sure it looks great on the outside. So I'm putting my middle pin tuck to the seam of the bias, and this is just far too fussy for me. Like, it's a bit of a pain in the butt right now, I gotta say. Maybe the neckline was just fine on her as it was. So now I'm hand basting that little neck edge back together, and I'm definitely reconsidering whether I want to do this on the front. I'll sew that top edge, and then that was just super fussy and stressful. I did not enjoy that process, but I think it looks okay. I think it'll be fine for the back, but I'm going to really think hard about the front. I'm just trying to make sure everything is tucked in neatly. Okay, so there's my finished back neck. Trimmed all the little threads. I don't think I'm in love with that technique. I think that was too much fuss and bother for what it's worth. So that's not going to happen on the front. We're going to try something different, or we'll just say, you know what, the front is a-okay as it is. We'll see. All right, so sewing the sleeve would be a nice easy step, except that I decided to do it as a French seam, but I have to blend this French seam into the serge seam there. So I'm going to leave a little bit of an opening and finish that later. But right now I'm just going to sew the beginnings of the French seam. So that means you start with it being wrong sides together. And I'm going to sew this pretty narrow. So you start with a skinny seam, and then these are my nice new LDH scissors. I'm going to trim that seam down to be even skinnier and nice and even. So now the French seam you sew again, now it's right side together, and that little seam edge just gets enclosed in there. So that's nicer on a sheer fabric like this, but also on a, the sleeve is still going to be wide enough that you'll see inside the sleeve when Cathy's wearing it. And so I didn't want to have a zigzag edge showing when you look inside the sleeve. I'll have a bit in between where I will zigzag, but that's right up at the armpit, so you won't ever see it. So I'm just back tacking on the original serged edge there at the side seam. So I'm just bringing the seam out to the edge. This is my little transition point, which I will take care of in a second. And I'm just holding it taut like that. The seam is right at the edge, and I'm sewing it with wide enough seam to just enclose that raw edge. Good, so that seam is enclosed, that's the inside, and then here is the outside. It looks like beautiful both inside and out. If you do happen to see inside Cathy's sleeve, you'll see that French seam instead of a zigzagged edge. I'm going to just zigzag that little edge just in that transition area where I'm joining from the original serge seam into my French seam. Because if I hadn't done the French seam, that's what the seam would look like inside when you peeked in the cuff edge of the sleeve. So it's not terrible, but it's not beautiful. I'll show you how I'm going to do the fine rolled hem on both sleeves. So I'm going to start just by sewing at the edge of my, not even at the edge, like I'll have the little toe of my presser foot sticking out over the edge, and I'm just sewing on a single layer. Okay, good. This is now turning to the inside, and I'm just turning it on that line that I just sewed. And I'll sew again, just along the folded edge. So that line that I just sewed keeps me straight, but it also kind of lets me pull a little bit more taut. So that's not done yet, right? I still just have a raw edge on the inside. And so now I'll turn again and sew a third time around. So I want to tuck in any little threads. So even though it takes 3 passes, it doesn't take that much time, especially on a small thing like a sleeve. And it really does give you a nice little skinny hem, and it gives you a little bit of weight to it too, because you've got 3 passes of stitching, which is like 6 lines of thread that actually do add to the weight of it. So it kind of helps anchor that sleeve a little bit, and it's a nice, pretty hem. Alrighty, so I'll do both sleeves like that. Okay, so now there's my soap line on this one. I'm cutting right straight through the hem, and then I'm just going to follow that line and trying to cut a nice smooth line because this edge might end up showing. I don't know if I'm going to do a seam or just an overlap here yet. Okay, that's that. And then here on the back of this t-shirt, I'm going to use this original hem right at the bottom there. So I'm just going to cut 2 strips because it's not quite long enough. And this doesn't have to be a beautiful edge because this is going to be under. I'm trying not to let my scissors touch the beautiful oak table. Okay. Okay, so I want the bottom edge of this. Then I'm going to see if I can join them in a sort of discreet way that somewhat matches the pattern. Oh yeah, okay, look at that. I can just sew that right there. Okay, beautiful. So that'll sit like this. There, here. And then flip and bring my notches together. So I want to have a quick fitting with Cathy before the end of the weekend. So I'm going to get on this one right away. Okay, how is this? Oh, that's actually really cool. Oh, I really love it. The fit is nice.
Yeah.
You're comfortable?
Yeah.
In fact, is it too roomy in some places?
No, I kind of like, I'm not a
person,
so.
I just want to feel right here. Like, should I? Right down here. I might take a little bit right there. But yeah, I love it. It's so cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah, like that's it. That is unique. Yeah, I love it.
$12.99.
The way it's hanging right at the bottom there, though, I want to fix that. So I'm just going to take a little bit away here. I'll just bring this edge a bit more in, right like that.
Yep.
Buying that t-shirt instead of the one we had looked at, like this is a way better deal, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then, so I just did that hand basting with the white thread. So that white thread is all going to come out, and I think it'll look like it was just meant to be. Yay! Yay! Awesome! Dinner time! Okay, so I'm back at home after our fantastic getaway at the cottage. That was just so much fun. And so now I'm ready to finish Cathy's upcycles. So do you remember at the cottage when she tried it on and it was just hanging funny at the bottom? All it needed was just for the one side to move over like about an inch. So I moved that over and rebasted it. And so now I'm ready to sew that in place. So not too long ago, I did a video where I did some piecing together of crew neck sweatshirts, and I sewed them with what I consider like a proper seam and then serge and everything. And somebody commented, why didn't you just overlap the pieces and sew them with a decorative seam? And I thought, why didn't I? And I think, there's a time and a place for a proper seam. And then maybe there are great times where you just do your overlap and you just do a decorative stitch. So I did play around with that with a little bit of scrap. I played around with a few of the stitches on this machine. Now this is still my loaner from my classroom, still no serger. So I think this is a perfect time to try out that method of joining these layers together. So the stitch that I've landed on for this baby lock, it's stitch number 30, which is like a cross stitch. I'll show you what that looks like. So it's stitch 30, which looks like this one. So I'm running this with the toe of the presser foot hanging over the edge of the dress so that my needle is coming up pretty close to the edge there. So I'll pull out that basting stitch, but can you see the stitch that it's leaving? It has some stretch to it, some give, and I think it looks kind of cool. I really like it. I'll try to get a better close-up for you in a second. And this is just a universal needle. It seems to be handling the knit well. Oh, there you can see the stitch pretty well, hey? I think it's pretty cool. I like it. It almost looks like a cover stitch, but not quite. I think it's working great. So I'm going to come all the way up one side of this and down the other side. And I just want to make sure that I don't have any extra folds of fabric underneath. I want to make sure that's laying flat because there is quite a bit of excess under there. So I don't really want to sew on multiple layers. So doing this decorative stitch on top of these layers definitely makes this point a lot easier. So there's the seam of where I joined the two pieces of paisley. Like, it's pretty hard to spot. Okay, and I really want to make sure these ends are just lined up perfectly. I think that's all good. A couple things I need to do then is, first of all, remove my basting stitch. Now, I used white so that you could see what I was doing a little bit better, but that does make the removal harder because I've sewn over it a bunch of times. And if it was navy, I wouldn't mind. Like, I could leave in little bits, but since it is white, it all has to go. So once that basting thread is out, the outside looks great. And then on the inside, I need to cut away all of that excess. I'm pulling the excess away from the inside of the dress so that I can keep my eye on the dress, because if I accidentally cut a little hole in it, I will cry. Good, so I'll pull out the rest of my basting stitch, cut away the rest of my excess, and then this one is done. That was actually pretty easy and pretty cool. I really like this one. I think that looks great. Alrighty, so to finish off this black and white top for Cathy, I just want to put a bit of elastic at the bottom of the sleeves. So I've drawn a line at the bottom of the sleeve on the wrong side at 2 inches or 5 centimeters from the bottom edge, and I've gone ahead and quarter marked it. So I've made a little mark at 4 equal points. And then I've got this skinny elastic that's only about 1/8 of an inch wide. It's 10 inches long, but I'm only going to use about 8 inches of it, just long enough to make it comfortable to sit around my forearm so that Cathy can push her sleeves up and still be comfortable there. So this is quarter marked every 2 inches, and I'll be cutting off the end there. So I'm using the free arm of my machine. I'm putting that sleeve right over, and I'm using a zigzag stitch set at 2 millimeters long and 3.5 millimeters wide. So I'll start at the seam with that zigzag. I just want to do a little back tack to secure my elastic in place. And now I want to stretch to get this quarter mark in line with that quarter mark, and then just stretch. And then find the next 2 matching points. And the next 2. And the last 2. And it is nice to have this extra bit to hold on to stretch right till the end. So that brings the sleeve in just a little bit, just to make the sleeve sort of softer and make the whole top just appear less boxy. So I'll do both sleeves like that. Both sleeves are done. That looks really cute. That'll give a nice shape. And now the last thing to do is this hem. And what we decided was I'm going to just make it symmetrical. That's all. If I just copied that edge, it's going to have a point at the front, which I don't want. Since I don't want a point at the front, I need to come in at a right angle and then blend, and I'll just come in under that original hem. It's nicely lined up at the top, so it'll be symmetrical. All the layers are smooth. Okay. And then I'll flatten out here to give a right angle at the side seam too. And clean up my edge a little bit. That seems good. Alrighty. So now I'll do that same 3-pass method for the fine rolled hem, and then we'll be done. Alrighty, so for the fine rolled hem, I've gone around once just with the toe of my presser foot hanging over the edge, and now I'm doing the second pass where I just turn it on that line that I just sewed. That first line, it just gives me like a good solid edge to be able to sort of put some tension on as I go around this curved hem. Then it's trimming it down So this is the step that takes some patience and some care. Okay, and then it's the third pass. So I turn again, and now I sew close to the top edge of the fold, not the bottom edge. So I'll be sewing up here. Now I've got a really good solid edge that I can put that tension on, and it just makes it easier. Okay, that was not too bad. And I have to say that that little hem is nicer than the original. I'll show you the original hem. So this is what I just cut off. It's not bad. It's fine. It's adequate. I think mine is nicer. Okay, good. So now I'm going to give this a little bit of a steam. I will give the dress a final press, and then I'm ready for Cathy and Ken to come over and have a little fitting and the big reveal.
Oh my gosh, so I absolutely love it on you now. Like,
Yeah,
it's so pretty.
it's so different, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like you would never know.
No, like it looks like it was meant to be.
Yes,
Right?
Yeah, this is how they should have made it.
That's what they obviously. The sleeves, I was a little worried that they'd be too short because I measured them before putting that elastic, or even before thinking about that elastic.
Right.
But the length I think is great, and I was worried too that this would be too short, right? Because it was like this.
Yeah, it was
I
very
thought we were going to have to fill in the high corner.
Yeah.
But no, it just worked out beautifully. Like the length is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
helps that I'm short.
Yes. the perks of being short. And then the back, let's just see that back neck. So this is the detail. In fact, hop over closer over here. So there's our little pin tucks that we put, and it works, right? I just wasn't happy with that as a technique because it was so hard and finicky, but it did bring the neckline in a bit. So now I think the neck sits really nicely on you. Like it doesn't look like you're drowning in it anymore.
Yeah, no, and you didn't have to do anything to the front.
Yeah, no.
It worked perfect.
Right? And it just keeps it simple, beautiful, emphasis on the fabric, beautiful sleeves now, not bunkers sleeves, no lunch bags on your
lunch bag.
I
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I'll make you a lunch bag. That one, I think, big win. In fact, we're heading out for dinner. You should wear this. And so let's see the other dress on you. Okay, look how pretty that is. I don't like makes me think of like what is that Japanese like wabi sabi?
Oh yeah, where they fix the broken.
Yeah. So that the fix becomes what makes it special. Right?
Yes.
I love it on you. I absolutely love it. And does it feel comfortable?
Yeah, it's really comfortable.
Yeah. And it looks like when you turn to the side before it clung. It clung a little bit too much. And now it just hangs straight. You look absolutely so adorable and cute. I love it.
I'm really glad we went with this pattern.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because we have a few, and this one.
Yeah, this one is more wabi sabi, right? The other two that we looked at, like that little stripe and the solid one, just wouldn't have added anything.
No, I don't think so.
Right?
Yeah.
This adds a really, really special touch. Okay, so I think we got two winners there. We're gonna head out for dinner now.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining the two of us for Catherine Sews. I'm so happy you were with us right till the end. I always love and appreciate that. Thank you so much to Cathy for being our special guest.
Oh, thanks for making me close.
And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care. Bye.